Join us as we dive deep with real indie filmmakers, those creating outside the studio system, sharing raw, unfiltered stories about their artistic vision, personal growth, and spiritual evolution. This isn't about Hollywood's version of indie. It's about the true heart and hustle of independent artistry, where bold dreams meet purpose and art defines the journey.
I'm Adrienne Acevedo Lovette.
And I'm John A. Rice.
And this is Real Indie.
Today we have Ryan Balas. Ryan Balas has made nearly 40 feature films and recently won a special grand jury prize for independent voice at Anchorage International Film Festival for his latest film, Midwinter. In 2024, he shot and released 18 episodes of a documentary series called Whiskeyland. He is one part of the Balas Brothers, a production company he co-founded with his little but much taller brother, Alec.
Can verify. We can verify that it's true.
He's a freak. You know, I used to always call him that, and then I realized I might be hurting his feelings.
No, as a fellow tall person, no.
I feel like he's taking it in.
We absorb it like a shield.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, nothing can hurt me. This has always been bad.
I love Alec. I haven't seen him in a long time.
I know. I feel like we're a funny company together because people really love him, but he doesn't he's quieter than I am, and he doesn't. I really try to endear myself, or I think that I'm endearing myself to people. And he doesn't try, so people really work hard to get his love and affection. Oh, yeah. And I almost admire it. I'm like, God damn it, I wish I could do that.
Yeah. He just stands there and everyone's like, I want to be your friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People do gravitate toward us tallies.
They do. It is a thing. Yeah. I know. It's weird.
True.
Have you really made 40 movies?
I was like, wait, 40?
I'm sorry, I know that I'm just jumping in, but I've known you for 20 years and my mind is just blown. That
I don't know the exact count. I'll say that. I would say at least 25 that I've directed. Mm-hmm. And there's got to be at least
That's true.
15 to 20 that I shot or edited or co-produced with other people.
That is incredible.
Right.
So it's sort of a crazy body of work. As silly as it seems, I'm forgetting about films now, which is weird.
In fairness, you were doing this long before literally anybody else that I knew.
Yeah. In my little corner making no budget movies.
Yeah.
I know, everyone was kind of in theater at first, and I just sort of jumped out making films. Yeah. I think because when I was in acting school, I had this teacher that was, my film acting teacher, our last project was like, all right, I hope you guys enjoy this. I want you to feel like you're the lead in something because for the next 10 years, you don't get to make movies. You're probably just going to work someplace and you're going to try, but you're not going to really be the lead in something. And I was like, nah.
Right.
Yes, I am. And then YouTube happened literally at the same time, like within months. So it was like, all right, I guess so that's an easy, But I abandoned YouTube way too fast, I think. If I'd stayed on YouTube, I'd be a millionaire now.
Oh, it was a completely different beast in 2004.
Yeah, it didn't have the same kind of reach or...
Yeah. It didn't have the same kind of anything. It was just...
even to make money.
Yeah. It was totally new. But, I mean, there's something so... I feel like the kernel of indie filmmaking is in exactly what you just described, because you were doing this. No one was giving you money for these things. You were just like, let me just put a camera on my crazy roommates and run it. And so much of your stuff was unscripted, and you were just learning by doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever said this to you, but I have so much admiration for you just jumping in and tackling it that way.
Same.
Thank you. That's really nice.
It was really innovative at the time. I didn't know anybody doing what you were doing.
Right, really.
Thank you.
I didn't
God,
either.
Wow, man.
Yeah. You didn't
You
expect
guys are
that,
nice
did
too.
you?
I didn't expect tingles out of the gate. Glad I took my vitamins.
It's true though. You're somebody though who really does embody the spirit, I think, of independent film.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wow. It's quite a spirit to try to embody. I think it's I've been scrappy and I've stayed scrappy. And there was a point where I was like, I've grown quite a bit, but there was a time where I was shooting someone's film, and I was staying at this like kind of cruddy hotel, and I was like, man, here I am again. Like I'm carrying all the equipment. I'm doing, you know, it's like nothing, no budget. We're eating bar food, and I was like so happy feeling inside. And I was like, I'm still doing that. That's like, if this is my life, if this is what it ends up being or my career, I'll be completely satisfied with that, because it's like it's been completely on its own terms. Because I didn't know like what I was doing or what it was supposed to be, or like because I started by holding a webcam up as a camera. It just like allowed me to like make my own lane, kind of. Which is, you know, it has its trouble, but it's also been like deeply, I think, spiritually rewarding, maybe, or emotionally rewarding. Also tormenting, but.
And you're like staying in your lane, going into that. You're one of the few filmmakers, probably one of the only filmmakers, maybe out of one that we saw in a film festival, that I know that can do a whole film, a whole feature film, unscripted, have maybe an outline, but then be able to direct people into the right conversation. You know, I think that's challenging. Like that's actually not everyone can do that. Can you speak about your process on that?
Well, sometimes I wonder if it comes from like a weird childhood, like hypervigilance or something, where I'm just like, what's going on here? Like my parents were both like, not I didn't have like childhood trauma or anything, but just that my parents were young, and I just feel like they were trying to figure out parenting. They were like, my dad was in college. It was just like kind of a lot going on, and my mom had kids really fast, and I sort of feel like, and then I was like diagnosed very young, like with ADHD. So I just had to learn to like read the room a little bit, maybe more so, or like had a sense of like, I also think I got this from my mom, where she has this ability to like, she's like a very emotionally intelligent person. Sometimes it's frustrating because she needs to, hi mom, no, she needs to like bounce her feelings off of somebody else to like see them back to her. And so I have a tendency to do that. This is going to just turn into therapy slowly, so I hope you're ready.
That's okay. That's what podcasts are for.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I have this tendency to like need to get a read by like bouncing kind of a feeling off of someone. So I think that like learning to do that as a kid and like growing up doing that really helped. Also, going to acting school and not film school was huge. Like spending 2 years watching actors and like figuring out what I wanted out of the performance, and like what I wanted was like some sort of version of reality, I think really made it so that. So the process is like, I think just trying to dream, trying to be, follow the impulses, and like to be just really like aware, you know, to the best that I can be, to like actually listen. Right. And like, and I think slowly we all learn, like, start asking for what you want rather than just like dancing around it, because sometimes it's just like, it's not worth wasting the time. Like just be as clear as possible about what you want. And many people, actors especially, I think, are like very eager to get on board with that, in my opinion, because it's like, it feels so strange to act, right? And to like be floundering around, especially like in the improv, like the improvised films where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing today. And like, if you can give into that, then it's really fun and exciting. But if that's something that scares you, then the process can be a little bit daunting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there are just certain people that are good at improvised films, like the ones that you've made in the past, and then certain actors that would need a lot more guidance.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you bring people on, is it actors that you know have the chops to do that? Or are they a mixed bag of actors that you don't know if they can, but let's give it a try, you know?
I feel pretty confident that everybody can do it. Like, whether or not they want to or are comfortable, we're doing it right now.
Right.
Sure.
We're improvising.
That's true, right.
So it's like a matter of whether, and I think that the good actors will always be able to do it, because it's really about like, being present, being in the moment, and listening. So if you can do that in a conversation, I think you can do that within the context of a film. Now, not everybody's a writer. I think that's where people do need like pushes and like, you know, but I think that
some line ideas.
Yeah. Like certainly if I'm in a movie, I'm able to like kind of write it within the context of the scene, and then when I'm not, I have to like work on that a little bit. But I prefer if people are telling their real stories, they're as honest as possible, then most of the time it's not that like different than a scripted film, in my opinion.
And in your improvised and unscripted, what's a proper term? I would say improvised films, not so much unscripted, but Is the real term improvised films?
I think so. It's such a mixed bag these days.
Yeah.
That like the
you
last
have a
few
plot.
films. What's that?
Like you have a plot. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
Yeah. I mean, as much as I have a plot.
yeah. Like you have an idea
I don't
from A
know.
to B to C.
theme. You have a theme.
I don't think any have a theme. I don't think any critics ever said I had a plot. But, no, I mean, I think the life is the plot. But I guess I would say improvised. I go back and forth. Like last year, I guess it was last year, when I made Midwinter, which was scripted and had a big budget, and then I made How to Make Love, which was unscripted and had no budget, but I shot it in Copenhagen, which was and it had like mixed language, a language I didn't speak, which is, here's a challenge, do an improvised movie in a language you don't speak.
Right. That is really challenging.
And that's just about like trying to understand the spirit of who you're working with and hoping that they don't say terrible things about you in another language that you find out later in the edit, and you're like, oh no, this isn't a scene, they're just cussing at me. I think, improvised film. I'm like getting more interested in like what I would consider like the subconscious film, or like unconscious film maybe, which is just like, I want to like have less an idea of what I'm gonna do and be more more available to discovering what happens, and like creating a little bit of a scenario or like a framework, you know, and then trying to create a process in that's like organized, but that is I'm able to like kind of like really make it up as we go and see what comes out of that, and like because I really think that it would be some amazing, like even maybe not having a theme, you know, like really like I don't know, more like influences, I guess, and then try to bring them all to the table and just kind of like see what happens, sort of like setting a firecracker into a something.
And you've worked as a director and as a cinematographer and all the other hyphenates, like all the other jobs. We all have worked many jobs. But the main ones that, you know, we've worked together is like directing and cinematography. Yeah. Do you have a preference? Like, do you like shooting more? Do you like directing more? Do you like a mixed bag?
I think it has to be a balance for me. Even with editing, like when we were making Whiskeyland this last year, our doc series, it was like we'd go off and shoot a batch of episodes for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, this is the best. I'd get really sharp. I love shooting. You know, it was fun. And then I would be exhausted. And I can't wait to just spend like 2 or 4 weeks alone in my studio editing. And then by the 4th week, I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. Like I got to do shooting. Like, so I think it's a balance. Like I loved like making Midwinter. I didn't shoot. I had a cinematographer, and it was like what fun it was just to really play with actors, like to be on my feet. And then with other films, I mean, I think shooting allows me to like really explore, and like I do have it is like a language that like I can only feel. I can't even express. I mean, I can express it through the movement, but that it's just something else. And so it really does, like, I think that is like the closest to probably like the purest version of what I want to do is when I shoot, maybe. But mixed bag.
Do you, right. And do you feel like when you're working on other people's projects as a cinematographer, does your director brain get in the way a little bit? You're like, oh, no, it's their vision.
Well, that's a great question. I think that, I don't think that I have a director brain and a cinematographer brain. I think they come from the same place, first of all. I'm aware of my responsibility as a cinematographer for somebody else versus a cinematographer for myself or a director. So I try not to get in the way of somebody creating their own vision for something. But I think if I'm coming on a project as a cinematographer, I think the idea is that like I also want to express myself through the ideas, and so I'm just trying to like interpret, you know. But like if I'm working with you, for example, that's a different kind of style. You're going to have a lot of like, you're way more organized than some of our other friends like Daniel Armando. And so, and that's not a knock on
who is another guest on our podcast.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
he's lovely.
yeah. Just listen to him speak. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like if I'm working with Danny, we have such a quiet, like,
You guys have been working together for so many years.
I mean, I shot his very first films.
Yeah, it's like you already know the aesthetic.
It's like a shorthand almost.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that kind of conversation because you already know.
I want him to get
how
out
each
of the
other
way of
works.
himself.
Yeah.
essentially. Like,
Right.
so sometimes he and I will like duke it out to just be like, and he relies on that too also because he's such a like poetic director. I think he relies on like my input as like the directing brain or the editing brain needs to like kick in when I work with Danny,
Right,
in a way
right.
that it might not with other people because I'm thinking more about coverage and stuff like that I would be on other films.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That's a good description of him, a poetic director.
Yeah.
That actually is like the perfect way to describe how he does his films. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And then I feel like you have a knack also for comedy and comedic material. How does that differ from some of the other stuff you've been kind of doing, which is more dramatic? Like your process, is it similar? It's the same with the dramatic, more art house stuff?
Yeah, I think, well, it's funny because for a long time I used to think like everything was comedy, and I was like, but 90% of them, no one gets it, or something. Like, it's like, isn't this hilarious?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is really dark stuff. And I was like, maybe that's a cop-out. Maybe I'm using comedy as to be like, see, it's just funny, right? It's not serious. It's not real.
Right.
But, I mean, I think comedy is a lot harder for indie films to do right.
Yes.
And it's a
timing thing, I feel,
Totally.
a lot of it. Yeah.
Totally, and not everybody's good at it or funny. Honestly,
Right.
not everybody's like. I think I'm pretty funny, but like, I'm more interested in some of the like darker themes, poetic stuff, art house stuff. But I always think like, God, what I'm a waste. I should be making silly movies because it feels good. Like when I go see a movie in the audience, like now, the last two films everyone quietly watches when there's maybe a sex scene on or something. Everyone like leans forward a little bit. And that's it. And I'm like, I don't know if they liked it. I saw they leaned forward, but that's all I know. But like the parts that are funny and the audience is laughing are so rewarding to me. It's like such a dopamine hit. I mean, it's obvious, but
Right.
it's like, I should just do that and then have another joke after that, and then the whole movie's,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a blend for sure.
Yeah, that reminds me, and I just popped into my head when you said like the theater being quiet and then boisterous. I saw Oppenheimer with a full house of physicists. Like
my
everyone
God.
was a physicist or a scientist of some kind, and it was like all the jokes that I didn't get because
Yeah.
I'm not a physicist.
They were cracking up?
They were just like, oh, and like any like comment, oh my God, like and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
It's one man's comedy.
It was
another
great
man's
though.
tragedy.
Yes, exactly. But it was great to be in an audience full of people who knew and understood and
love that.
reacted.
That's so good.
But yeah.
Yeah, I
It was
think
really good.
it is true, right? It's like what is it, comedy's tragedy plus time. So like some
Yeah.
people like
It's
their-
interpretation,
yeah,
really.
their timeline might be sped up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've made so many films and some of it on your own dime. Can
Yeah.
you talk about your process of the financial part of
Sure.
filmmaking? As indie filmmakers, we all kind of try to figure out creative ways to get money, and that's the hardest part, I think, honestly, about filmmaking.
Well, it's not a very shiny dime that I made these things on. I just like it. To me, it's always about like shaping the process to like allow for what you have available to you. So mostly like it's about like I think of it less about how am I going to finance something and more about what resources I already have. So that kind of is a good starting point for me. I mean, I write with resources in mind almost always. So like if so that helps. I think a little bit.
What do you mean by resources?
Like locations. What do you know? Have
What
I
do you
shot
have
in my
accessible?
Have I shot in my house yet? Have
Sure.
I? What car do I have? Or could I use my studio? Or I have these 4 friends that want to do something. Like those kind of resources that I can already start to like shape around or story around. And then, I'm not in the business to like exploit or work for like people for, run people, rampant and do stuff for super cheap. I try to like pay fair market value for the things that people are doing because it's the right thing. And sometimes I have a tendency to overpay. Nobody who worked with me would agree with that probably. But in some ways I could probably get away with paying less in some areas. But I try to whenever I can. And especially like with commercial work, that's when I try to like double up and like, all right, remember how you got that cushy little job? Next time we make an indie film, I really need you to do it for cheap. Or score the movie or whatever.
I know commercial work can skew crew a little, and you're like, okay, remember this is indie, not a commercial.
Enjoy your sushi. Because No, I mean, but I keep the movies small. That's the first part. It's like keep them small. A lot of them are 2-people movies. A lot of them are like limited locations. But the stuff that I think people tend to spend money on, I think, is also sometimes not the same way I spend. I spend money like on people and food, basically, and maybe housing or whatever. But like, so other stuff is developed around what I have available to me. But I don't think there's a real. I used to think like, how are people raising money? Like, at the end of the day, I think it's just the same as what I said earlier, which is that you just got to ask for what you want.
Right.
So like, if there are plenty of people in the world with loads of money. For better, like a lack of tact maybe, but sometimes you just got to ask them for it, and like people have different desires with for their money, the way that their money is used, right? So like some people at a certain level like don't want a little bit of vanity or want a little bit of an ego, or like they love seeing their name as executive producers. So like, and that's satisfying enough for them. And that's not, I wouldn't say like go exploit that, but but be okay with that if that's what works for somebody. So I mean, it was the Midwinter had a $100,000 budget. It was about 120. That was one financier who is retired, wealthy, not interested. If it made money, he'd be glad, but it was not $100,000 that he was like afraid to lose. It's like a tax right off at the end of the day.
Right.
He was more interested. He's an art collector, and so he was more interested in just being like, I want to contribute to a piece of art that's being made. And he said the one thing that no financier has probably ever said or should say, which is like, I don't even want to read the script. I'm not trying to control you. I just want to free you. Now, when that happens in your life, you're like, you've got to say yes to that and not worry about it. And so I really like that. I like really honored that when I made Midwinter, which was like, I could have taken that money and probably made a more commercially appealing film, or like smaller cast, got a name actor for a small, for a role or something. But I honored this like permission that I was given to like double down on my artistic pursuit, So I think that's like
it's a gift.
That's a gift. You have to accept it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that entirely answers the money question, but
there's a real lesson in that though, because even I think in our experience, in my experience, anytime you are fundraising, the times when I feel like we get the most capital, it's the easiest. It's like, it's never a fight. It's like we have a financier or an executive producer, and they're just like, what do you need? Yeah, okay, what do you need? And then there's other people where you feel like you're like banging on their door, or like it's, endless emails, or like endless, like, well, I'm gonna read the script, well, I'm not sure about this, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like the times when we kind of get what we need, it's never hard.
Yeah.
It almost happens organically in a way.
I completely agree with that. You don't want to be in the business of taking money from someone who doesn't want to lose it, because it's indie films and you're going to lose it.
Right. You need someone who just believes in the work enough to say like, yes,
basically
go.
The goal is to find those people that believe in the work, but you have to show the work in order for them to be like, oh yeah, I can totally vouch for you. Like you have to put the work in. And so starting from the bottom, you might have to make a film for $25, which is, we've done that, and got into festivals, and that clout showed that, oh, okay, we're clearly people like what we're doing, and then more and more people want to ride that bandwagon or just support it or like you as a person and see what you're trying to accomplish and support that.
Well, people's bullshit meter is high too. Like if you're passionate, they're going to get on board with that energy versus like if you don't really think something's going to work or you're not that passionate about it, they might not be that interested. So like I feel like that's the one area where I can like, when I want to tell a story, I want to make a film, like I am singularly excited about it in a way that like I think people are receptive to in a very positive way.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, money's tricky. I mean, the same lesson is like when we do brand work in the Balas brothers, like any client that like, it's like we have to fight for the money, that project's gonna suck, always, always. Not just because we have to fight for the money, but because every dime is gonna be like, you're like scratching away from them. But the clients that have tons of money and wanna pay you a lot, they don't even look at it. It's like the check is there the next day and it's never like even a thought. So it's a funny business.
So you've been juggling both, your independent filmmaking and your company that does more commercial work. And so what's your like feeling about side hustles and what you got to do to at least climb up the ladder?
Well, this year we did something that was unique, which is that we, for the last like 5 years, have worked with brands and basically went to brands as a production company and said, hey, what can we do for you? Oh, we'll do anything for this amount of money or this amount of money. And we were doing commercials and some TV commercials and some internet stuff, especially sort of during COVID. And then this last year, we're like, all right, we know that what we do is valuable to these brands, but we are not happy just like bringing nothing to them, and we're not happy oftentimes with the ideas, the creative they're bringing to us. So let's create a project, which is Whiskeyland, which is that like a vehicle that brands can use if they want, if they're smart, but it's completely ours. It's our creative control. Like we're bringing it to the table. And so we went to brands saying, hey, we're going to make this documentary series. If you want to be a part of it, either you're a brand that benefits from an audience that loves whiskey, or you are a whiskey brand and you benefit from having your story told, with the caveat that like we're going to do it our way. And just like it's the same independent spirit as making the films, but and that's been really like it worked kind of on accident. We're like, dang it.
Yeah. How did you guys fall into that? Because before, I mean, when we were all working together, you didn't have that company. Yeah. And we're all making independent films together. How did that company start up and what was that journey?
Well, I was making food stuff. I got hired to shoot food videos essentially when BuzzFeed was doing that like overhead food fast thing.
Sure, yeah.
There was a company called Delicious Contents that like a producer friend of mine knew these guys. They were from like an ad agency and editorial, like from a magazine. And they were scrappy and they needed somebody who was like basically cheap. And like, so someone recommended me. I'd been just shooting our movies essentially and didn't have any like studio experience, but I shot like a small documentary thing that was branded for them. And then they hired me to start shooting these like food videos. And so I started to like figure out how to use the lights and how to like do an actual like proper studio shoot. But then they kind of died out because that's like an ever evolving sort of format. And so I just like was told I brought my brother on to like edit some of those projects. And we went to Portland and Boise on these like shoots where we would shoot, like I would shoot all day, give him footage like midday and end of the day, and he was cutting these like quick pieces and turning them around. And so we got really good at it. And we both, like, because my brother knows my footage so well, it's like different than if you're going through anyone else's dailies. He knows like when I'm not quite there, when I'm there, like what's gonna work, what kind of stuff. He knows already.
It's like your secret weapon.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's insane. And so he got really good at editing. I got really good at shooting these things. And so we put it together, a production company that was like designed to go after that kind of stuff. And when COVID happened, we were like in exactly the right time, right place. We had just gotten a studio in Hudson, and it was like everyone needed to send their stuff, their products to like shoot. They couldn't be there, which was like ideal for me because I was like, I don't want 40 people sitting on laptops like being like, I don't like the way that the can is spun around. Like, all right, well, I know this is your internship, but I don't care what you think. I'm better at this than you. So we just like got lucky doing that. And what I found was that shooting commercials, like obviously they have bigger budgets than most of our films, even when they were small budgets, to be honest. And when I kept it small and I sort of approached it the same way I approached the indie movies, I actually was getting a lot out of it. But I will say, like I said, we changed in the last year, and I'm much more like film focused again, I think. And part of that is because I started to like get very tired of contributing to like what advertising is doing to our brains.
Sure.
And I started to like recognize, like, I'm like, am I a propagandist or am I a filmmaker? Like for real, like, am I harming people's brains? It's like when I see kids watching YouTube and I see all the branded content that's sneaking in as content and they don't know the difference. And I started to feel like, I don't know if this is like ethically okay with me.
Right.
You know, I'll still take their money for now, but
Well, do you find that it needs to be a balancing act, just like in order to live and make the art that is important to you, you then have to make this compromise and do the other thing? Do they inform each other? Do you like them both?
Yeah. Well, we live in late stage capitalism in the US, and I do have to participate in that machinery a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it sucks because you know, I've got friends in Europe who are like, you know, it's like state sponsored stuff, or the government's paying for their part of their films, or they're getting grants, or like, because the arts are more important. And as we know, in America, we're feeling the squeeze probably more than ever. And I think because, and big tech is sort of like making it really difficult too. So I think in order to work, we have to work with brands and do sort of more advertising. I mean, our entire platforms are designed around selling advertising, even Netflix, right? Everything's designed around that. So you have to find a way to play that game that satisfies you. So like for me, for Whiskeyland as an example, going and working with brands, like people who are like whiskey makers that have these brands that they really care about, like, and telling those stories is actually very rewarding. And if it helps and supports their craft business, like grow, then like I can get very, very on board with that. And at the end of the day, it's like just tell human stories. If they're paid for by a big whiskey company, or if they're self-funded by myself, like tell human stories and do your best to like be honest, then I think it's okay. You know, in the early days when I was just working as a videographer, I would get hired to do these like medical videos, and they would have doctors essentially sit on camera, and then there'd be like a panel of lawyers and an ad agency having like watching the script and be like, you said that, and then you know that wasn't. We don't want you to say it like that. And the doctor's like, well, that's true. And like, just don't do
so
that.
funny.
You know, and I just hated that. I just felt like that was so dark.
Yeah.
So that really took a turn, guys.
Listen, ups and downs on this podcast.
Honestly. Well, talking about dark, when there's a dark time in your life, in regards to just being in the industry or burnout or whatever, what do you do to ground yourself, to uplift yourself, to find some kind of center?
I think that, as you know, we're all obsessed with social media, and I could find myself in these like rabbit holes of just like needing the dopamine hits.
It's so easy to just scroll.
And it's easy to scroll, and it's easy to feel like that's working.
Right.
Like that's like when we're promoting stuff, when we're, you know, it feels like, all right, I'm doing the work. I'm putting in, this is my brand, this is my like output. And when I unplug from that, like take time to say like, I'm deleting the stuff off my phone. I'm not gonna obsess over scrolling. That's like the way that I kind of like reset. The other morning I deleted Instagram for the 10th time off of my phone or something, you know? And I woke up and I was like, well, I don't have it. What am I gonna do? It's the first thing I do in the morning is scroll. And so I just like, I have a sunroom, and I just like, in my bedroom, it's like off of my house, and I just like looked out the window. and it was like blue, beautiful light. There's like ice on the window. And for a second, I was like, this is bliss. Like, this is better. This is better than any stupid TikTok prank I'm gonna see all day. I was like this, so I think that's like grounding myself in those moments is really like important. I also do a lot of therapy. I do dream work, which is like at first I was doing it as purely therapeutically, like trying to get to some part of like understand this like sort of existential anger, grief thing that I was feeling.
What's dream work?
Are you familiar with Carl Jung? Carl Jung, the Swedish psychotherapist.
I mean, I drew a deck of tarot cards, so you know that I
am.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I forgot. Congrats, by the way, on your book.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
right.
the most beautiful art ever.
Yeah.
When you first started doing tarot cards, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know he could do that. Yeah. It was so beautiful.
I kept it hidden.
But the tarot card thing is actually a great example. It's like the early psychotherapists, Freud, Jung, and a number of other people, but they did start kind of like looking at mysticism and tarot and hypnotics and hypnosis and all this stuff. And they had sort of came to this conclusion, and they looked at all these different cultures and the art they were making and the symbols they were creating and these like sort of, and Greek mythology and these like archetypes that were emerging out of this stuff that were like kind of similar across the board. Like these symbols that like literally show up in all of the cultures. People who are aware of them and people who are not aware of them are doing them. I've had this tremendous discovery of like, well, I'm like, have I been painting that symbol for like 3 years? What the hell is that about? So Carl Jung, more so than Freud had this idea that it's like weird, not weird, but it's like sex stuff from when you were a kid, pent up eroticism, whatever. It comes out in your dreams, and then your dreams are sort of that.
Okay.
And then Jung sort of went further with it and said it's not just like eroticism, it's not just pent up stuff. There's like an ongoing kind of like unconscious thing operating at the same time as your conscious sort of ego brain is operating. It's gonna get weird. So, and so dream work, essentially, the dream work that I do is essentially trying to work with that format of like kind of creating, my therapist calls it like a container for the dreams to kind of like explore them. And so it started off as sort of like, if I have a dream, I write it down. I have dreams like every night. So now I write it down and then I would take it into the session and we would like sort of talk through it. Usually my eyes are closed. And then we would do something that Jung calls active imagination, which is just like go back into the dream and like what else is there. And it's all this like material. And so, and then you stop seeing the dream as something literal and you start seeing it as like, that's just the language that your subconscious, unconscious mind has. That's like the colors, the paint that they can use it can use to like communicate sort of a message.
Like process information.
Yeah. So like if I'm having a dream about my brother, I mean, yes, I saw my brother the other day, so it might make sense that he appears in my dreams, but the dream is not about my brother.
Right.
It's like about whatever other material kind of comes from that. So it's like, the dream is almost like, this was described to me by my therapist, it's like a stained glass, kind of like you just like are looking through the dream into like sort of your unconscious material, which doesn't have language. It needs our conscious mind to do that. So basically, I'm a Scientologist. No. So then I read L. Ron Hubbard.
We'll put a content warning before this episode.
Yeah. It's gonna get weird. So the dream work essentially is like writing the dreams down, interacting with the dreams, using my imagination to kind of like dive further into it. And I've had some real like amazing breakthroughs, stuff that I just didn't know that like was hanging on. And like I said, when I initially started, I was just sort of for therapy, and now it really has become like the foundation for my creative world because
I was just
they're one and the same.
Yeah, that's it's kind of you're kind of gifting yourself so many inspiring weird stories,
Yeah.
because
It was already happening. I was
Yeah.
just not aware of it. I didn't have a container for it.
Right.
And so now having this like work that I do, weekly and daily and, throughout my life just like helps inform it's the wellspring that the stuff is coming from, that I'm able to like dive further into it and not,
Yeah.
and part of the process of writing your dreams down too is like stream of consciousness, and to not let it, not to judge it, and to let it get like, it's using words, but maybe the words don't even need to make sense together. It's just about like the process itself is the thing.
Right.
I cannot wait to see your next movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be the excavation of your
right,
brain.
right.
It's with my therapist. I'm doing a documentary together.
Well, I have a dream book by my bed, so I'm always looking up what my dream, because my dreams are super vivid.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm always looking at what the heck they mean.
Yeah.
And even right now, we're co-writing a feature based off of one of my dreams. So
I love that.
It's, and it's a horror, which
Yeah,
is like,
that's
not
great.
all my dreams are a horror, but they're almost Dolly horror-like.
But that's
kind
so
of
beautiful, because
interesting.
that's like, Jung calls it the shadow material, and it's like that darkness is like it's like this yin and yang, right? And so like in order for the light, you have to have the dark, right? That's a very basic principle.
Right, I didn't even
And
think
so,
of
like,
it that way.
Diving into the nightmares, I mean, look at David Lynch, right? God rest in peace, David.
Right.
Like that dude was going way into the nightmares.
Yeah.
And it's so profound and poetic and beautiful that I just think like, yeah, I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it, because I didn't even think about it. Like me as a person, I'm pretty peaceful and pleasant and nice and
I
kind.
know, I thought it was weird that you guys make horror films because you're so nice.
I mean, that's just me. That's just my twisted Scorpio
I
side.
like thrillers and suspense, and he likes horror, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of marrying the two.
Yeah.
But I think, that what you just said, that makes sense that my dreams are on the darker nature.
Sure.
Because me as a person during the day is in the lighter nature.
Totally.
So it is having that balance, and my
Yeah.
brain is creating that.
It's like what's unexplored. Like that's
Yeah.
always the
Yes.
more exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
area.
Which is, I think, why we find the darker material so interesting, because that's not our everyday.
Totally.
We're not living our life screaming, freaking out of a monster. But it's a nature.
Well, most of us.
Yeah.
Not
Most days.
Right. Well, these days. But
I don't know. My dreams are getting a lot more pleasant.
Right.
And reality is getting so dark.
Right.
Yeah.
But in any case, well, how do you want your audiences to take? What do you want your audiences to take away from your films? Like, what is it that you're kind of? Do you feel like you have an underlying message or a similarity to all your films?
Well, I think inevitably there's probably some similarities thematically, but I don't know. It took me a long time to accept that I was making films for an audience, which sounds funny, but like I wanted them to like it, but I didn't think like you should make this so they like it. I guess if that's the right way to put it, but like now I'm a little more conscious of like there's things I can do that will make this like that are clearer ways of this idea, like clear ways to get there that will make the experience of being in a theater more exciting, or the experience of watching it on your phone more exciting, or more something. So I don't not think of them, and I don't think of them. I try to I want it to come from my gut as much as possible, because that will serve the audience. The more I'm in touch with my internal world, the more the external world is going to come to me,
Sure.
And so I think that's really important to try to stick to.
It's being authentic, basically.
Yeah.
It's keeping with that authenticity, because I feel like when you're specific and being so detail oriented about a belief or the way you are or whatever, there's always going to be people who relate to that.
Totally.
And so it's, instead of catering to the masses, it's just, opening yourself up to people understanding and relating.
Yeah, I think it's so if I'm tuning in, I think that will have an impact. What I hope that people find, I've said this sort of the last few films, considering kind of where we're at, is that I want them to be a balm a little bit for people's soul. I want a relief, to be honest. For come in, they're slower, right? They're less plot. There's less that your brain has to follow to understand. They are more like layered and poetic and abstract at times, and like that allows for someone to just come in and like just breathe and experience it. And so I think that's like really vital. I also think it's like really important for me to make films that are I'm not intentionally making them slower, but to trust my like own rhythm, because we are bombarded with imagery constantly through the scrolling, through the advertising, that like we do like have to reset our brains a little bit. Like I want the film, if anything, to be a walk in the woods, you know, like that to me, if it's a meditation, like that to me is going to be more useful. Like that's where my art can be useful versus just something that like makes me feel cool or whatever.
That's lovely.
My partner Kevin the other day just told me that there are these, I guess they're YouTube channels or TikTok channels. I don't know, but you can like, it's just someone going about their mundane day. It's like a grandma knitting or like someone just like on a bike ride or something. It's
It's like Scandinavian slow cinema.
Right.
Yeah. Like the train rides. I made this film called In Our Quiet, which almost I don't think anybody has seen. Probably it's out, but it is 95% dialogue free. There's a little bit of voiceover in the beginning. It's just like my partner Sam and I were in California, and we went to like the ocean and then the desert, and I just shot. And it's a very oddly emotional movie for there being zero dialogue. But you just like when you settle into it for 70 minutes, it does something to you. Your brain, because we also, our brains want to make meaning out of stuff.
Sure.
So we have this opportunity to just provide a canvas in which other people's brains have an opportunity to like make meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we put too much meaning into something, we take that away from our audience a little bit. And so I think it's nice to like kind of provide this like space to be like, well, let's see what happens here.
I really love that. You should submit that to the MoMA.
Yeah.
you should.
It's on YouTube.
And so you're someone who is an advocate for distributing your own films.
Yeah.
And just being the main person doing that.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, yeah. I came from, when I was a teenager, I was like part of a music scene that was very much an independent music scene. And we like made our own CDs and put them in paper and like stamped them and like sold them at shows. And like, I loved that. Because it felt like we didn't have to wait for somebody. You know, we didn't have to like, nobody gave us permission to do something. Our record label didn't come along and like force something. And so I sort of maintained that like ethos. And so I still use partners to distribute stuff.
Sure.
But I wanted to own my library because I felt like that was really important to like maintain the rights. And the films that I didn't have all been, I've gotten screwed on. You know, like most recently, like Chicken Soup for the Soul bought a library of films that I had 3 films on, and now and they went bankrupt. And they didn't pay me. They basically robbed me for 2 years. Never paid me, and then went bankrupt. And now it's just like these films I can't even put out the films. If I put them out on YouTube, they claim copyright. And these are like old licenses. They didn't pay me for 2 years, and now I can't like try to profit or even make them free on a monetizable channel. And that to me is such a travesty. But that's what big corporations do. They do shit like that.
Yeah.
And so like I'm more interested in like being that kid who's wrapping the film up or wrapping the CD up in paper and stamping it and actually giving it to somebody when I can. But more so, I just think that there's like, I can get on mostly every platform now without having someone to give me permission. Mm-hmm. And I like that control. Like, I like that, like, and I think we're increasingly so because of the streamers and the way that they, you know, what Netflix had like a record high 19 million new subscribers, and they raised their prices. Like, at what world are we going to live in? And they're not paying filmmakers anymore. Right. They fought them tooth and nail for the contracts. And so what world do we want to live in where we empower those people and that mechanism, which is going to get too big and implode, when we can build our own little islands and distribute our work and have a direct like relationship. You experienced that with the tarot card stuff, right? Initially,
I did,
right? You built a
100%.
community around the work.
100%. And I do think that we're leaning more toward that in all art spheres in general. Like it is exactly what you just said. People have so many options in ways that they can spend their time and money and attention. And if you can build a personal connection with someone, they're going to be much more inclined to, watch your content or whatever it is. But you were self-distributing before anyone I knew. And now I feel like with what we're experiencing now distributing films, I think for indie film, it's almost like a no-brainer to self-distribute because we can get on any platform ourselves now and cut out the middleman. So
and there's no good deals really. Like otherwise,
no,
like
that's the thing. There isn't good deals
work.
with the distributors right now, unless you have an A-list.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
even then,
Entourage.
some of those deals are bad.
Right.
Like they're never going to be in your favor, and because there's no benefit to them to making them in your favor.
Right.
So like we can either, but I understand that like it feels nice to be picked, right?
Sure.
Or
Right.
like have somebody take care of, even just from a workload standpoint.
Sure.
It'd be like, here's the film, market it, take care of it. It's a lot of work to like distribute your own
That's
films.
another thing too. People don't. I think in the indie world, you don't realize the cost of deliverables
Right.
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of outrageous,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Self-distribution is a lot cheaper. Honestly,
Way cheaper.
The most I'm paying for is captions, and AI is basically doing that now.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
it's gotten
exactly.
so good at it. It's like, so I don't know. I just think it's like, the ceiling is less so, which is important for indie filmmakers, and it's possible to compete. The thing that we don't have that the big companies have, and which is why distribution would be nice, is marketing money. Right? What are they spending double what a budget is usually to push a movie?
Right.
And we don't
kinda
have
crazy.
that. And we're storytellers, which should make us good at marketing, but it feels uncomfortable. Right? And so, and it's not everybody knows how to like, I don't know, sell an ad against a film. I have some of that knowledge now from working in advertising that like, I try to apply that to our films and think about them as like, this is, at the end of the day, when I put it out into the world, it's a product, and I have to advertise it like a product and treat it that way. So, I think I'm a proponent for self-distribution for like these like punk rock ethos, but I also because I do think it's the best way forward and like the way that we're...
Especially in indie film.
Yeah.
We've learned that throughout the years, and then we've learned that film festivals, which used to be about distribution or getting distribution, isn't quite the same. I think after the pandemic, a lot of the film festivals, unfortunately, are not all at the same place or level that they were before.
Totally. Yeah.
And their purpose isn't they're still finding a film community, seeing your film on a screen, getting an audience to see it. I think that's all very important.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to get it out there, it's almost like you can't really depend on the festivals
Not at all.
for the help of distribution.
For sure.
You really have to do it on your own. And I think, companies like Film Hub, for example, are really good for that. And we're not connected to Film Hub at all.
Yeah.
But you can sponsor us.
I'm actually talking to them tomorrow on a call, so I'll tell them, I'm like, hey,
listen.
you need to sponsor us.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Film Hub is good. I think my only issue is that they're a tech company first. And so what they did when they raised a lot of money was they hired a lot of people, and then they had to make the money back that they raised.
Sure.
And so they started selling to the filmmakers essentially with this like sort of subscription service.
There is a subscription,
which doesn't, I'll say this to their face tomorrow on a call, adds zero value to a filmmaker.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Almost zero. It's sort of an absurd idea. The thing is, I don't need it. Mm-hmm. I need the free service, which they get a percentage of the movies, and we're all happy.
Right.
So it's fine. Like it's not, the challenge. I met with a marketing person like a year ago, but she's no longer there. But she said, "Well, what else would you do if you didn't use this service?" And I think she meant it sincerely, but I sort of took it as a challenge. I was like, "Well, I don't know." And so I had to really think about that. And that's I actually like that problem to solve. I think that what's most important is that we all work together to put each other's films out.
Right.
Like that's the part I'm most excited about. Is because I've loved making these films with everybody. Like this friend group that's like, you said 20 years. Like my God,
Crazy.
It's
I know,
insane.
it is crazy.
And it's like I'm so excited about your films and Danny's films and like other friends that are making films, and I just want to like really shape that community and really like lean back into that, so that the corporate tech stuff is only a tool. It's not a gate, it's not a door, it's just a tool.
Right.
I think we are hearing, there's a theme of these interviews that is sort of like about doubling down on the true indie spirit and recognizing it is about your team, your people, that authentic vision, that is actually kind of the way forward.
Yeah, because it is a divide and conquer time period, right?
Yeah.
As we see with the media. And so if we don't stick together and we don't have each other's back, we don't have anything. And community is the most important thing in life. Forget the film industry, you know. At this point, the industry and my life are so crisscrossed. And so, you know, that like all I want is like a tribe, you know. Even when we're working off in our little singular visions on things, it's so important to like bring it back.
Yeah.
Circle the wagons, I guess, as they say.
Yeah, that term community has come up, I think, with everyone I've talked to.
Yeah.
So vital, so vital. I love it.
Well, Ryan.
Well,
I have to cut it short. It sucks because I feel like we can talk forever and ever and ever. But
We'll do part 2.
yeah, right, exactly. And
This
I'm
was
trying
so
to
nice
see
of
if
you
there's
guys to
any...
invite me to do this. I
Oh my
appreciate
gosh,
it.
of course.
I was so flattered.
Thank you for coming all the way down here to do this.
I would have come from Canada.
Well, thank you, Ryan, so much
thank
for
you.
being
It'd be
here.
funny if I just walked out right now and just like took the mic and everything. And just,
Yeah, I just left.
well, see ya. See ya never, guys.
And it's been so nice to get to know our friends in this capacity and to just, I feel like, you know, because we're interviewing, you know, we're listening more. And even though when we have conversations, of course we listen, but it's different to just be silent and let someone talk, you know, and I feel like I'm getting to know everyone in a more intimate way, which is really nice.
Well, I think on the flip side, it's really nice to have to think through your ideas a little bit.
That's
And
true.
be like, what do I feel about this thing?
Yeah, yeah.
And like see what, like discover what comes out. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You'll listen back on this and you'll say, well, what? I
What
wonder
did
how
I
that
say?
makes sense. Possessed.
Community, the money, baby.
Well, anyway, I love you so much.
Yeah,
I'm your fan, so.
yeah, same. Your guys' movie was so good. I've told you that, but I loved the movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're like, what did you play, 7 parts?
It was 6.
And he had to act against like 6 parts?
Yeah, no,
It's
I know.
insane.
It's crazy.
I watched it afterwards. I was like, I went to Sam and I was like, that was fucking crazy. I was like, I had no idea what I was gonna, you know, I just didn't know what the movie was.
Yeah.
I was like, that was next level.
Oh, thank you.
It was great. It's such a relief, right? When your friends make good movies.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was definitely written at a time where my head was everywhere. So it reflected that
It's
very
so good.
much.
You got into the deep stuff. You went to the deep end.
Yes, I did. Yes, we did. But anyway.
All right. Wow.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Real Indie. If today's conversation sparked something in you, like it, share it, and keep creating. This episode was brought to you by The Garage Productions and Man of the Crowd Productions, where purpose meets storytelling and stories are made from the ground up. Until next time, keep it real, keep it indie.